Chosen one, have you felt everything suddenly stop? Like your plans, your flow, your momentum, all paused for no clear reason. This isn't a coincidence. This is your divine interruption. You were guided here because the universe, or rather God himself, is asking you to pause. Right now. This moment is sacred. Everything you were chasing, everything you thought was falling apart, it's actually being rearranged. The divine is stepping in to reset your path. You've been walking in circles, trying to force progress when heaven is calling you to stillness. You are not behind. You are being positioned. The spiritual realm has shifted, and this message is your confirmation. The very reason this video reached you now is because your spirit was meant to hear it. Nothing is random for the chosen one. Take this as your sign that the pause you're in is not punishment, it's preparation. Stay with me, because what you'll hear next will realign your soul and reveal why this interruption had to happen. Comment 777 if your spirit knows this word is for you, and don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell, because your awakening begins right here, right now. The moment of divine interruption. Chosen one. The moment of divine interruption is not something you plan for. It arrives unannounced, like a sudden silence in the middle of chaos. One day everything seems to move, and the next, everything stops. Doors that once opened without effort begin to close. People who used to call suddenly vanish. Opportunities that felt promised seem to fade away. It feels like you've been placed in a holding pattern, watching life move forward while you stand still. But this moment, this divine pause, is sacred. It is the universe's way of shifting the frequency around you. When God interrupts your path, He is not punishing you. He is protecting you. The divine knows what you cannot yet see. You might think you're losing momentum, but in truth, heaven is rerouting your destiny toward alignment. This interruption often comes right after a season of intensity. You've been giving, striving, believing, praying, and suddenly the energy shifts. Everything that once made sense feels uncertain. But that uncertainty is not confusion, it is divine construction. It is the space where God dismantles what was built on false foundations. The chosen one cannot walk into a new season carrying the old version of themselves. And so, everything halts. It's as if time itself pauses to let heaven rearrange your surroundings. You begin to sense that nothing is random, that there's a deeper orchestration at play, even when you can't explain it. In this sacred interruption, God often hides you. He removes your visibility, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being protected from premature exposure. Some people weren't meant to witness your preparation, they were only meant to see your transformation. The divine knows that certain energies can't enter your next chapter, so they must fall away now. You'll notice how conversations shift, how your spirit becomes sensitive to things that never bothered you before. You'll lose interest in what once excited you. That is not depression. It is divine redirection. Your soul is detaching from anything that does not align with your higher assignment. This is the phase where the ego wrestles with surrender. You may question, why now? Why would God stop everything when I was finally moving forward? But understand this. God does not interrupt momentum. He interrupts misdirection. When you are about to move outside divine timing, heaven intervenes. You might call it delay, but the divine calls it correction. You were never meant to run endlessly on the wrong path. This interruption is the loving hand of a father saying, "Pause here, because there's something I need to show you." During this moment, you may feel a deep emptiness, as though you've been stripped of your purpose. You'll search for meaning in silence, but the silence is the meaning. The divine is teaching you to hear in stillness. This is where faith grows, not in noise, not in busyness, but in the quiet, knowing that something divine is forming beneath the surface. You are being trained to trust what you cannot see. Heaven pauses motion to strengthen your discernment, because the next level requires a version of you that knows how to hear without evidence, how to believe without confirmation, and how to move without crowd validation. The moment of divine interruption is uncomfortable because it forces introspection. You'll start noticing what drains your energy, who disrupts your peace, and what you've been holding on to that no longer serves your destiny. This pause exposes attachments disguised as blessings. The divine strips away illusions so you can see clearly. Every loss in this season is protection. Every delay is direction. What feels like rejection is actually divine preservation. And when you understand that, peace begins to return. This interruption is not just happening around you, it's happening within you. Your spirit is being recalibrated to match a higher vibration. The divine cannot elevate you while you're still vibrating at the level of your past pain. So, he pauses your movement to cleanse your energy. He isolates you, not to punish you, but to refine your awareness. You may feel lonely, but you are surrounded by divine presence. This is where heaven whispers secrets that can only be heard in isolation. Chosen one. The interruption is the bridge between the old and the new. It's where the old timeline dissolves and the new one begins to form. You are standing at the intersection of endings and beginnings. That's why everything feels strange, because you're not who you were, and yet not fully who you're becoming. This space is called divine transition, and only those chosen for higher callings experience it in this way. So instead of resisting it, embrace it. The stillness you feel is God's voice guiding you toward realignment. Every time you sense the urge to rush, remember this: divine timing cannot be forced. It can only be surrendered to. What's coming after this pause will not be a repeat of the old, it will be a restoration of the new. The divine is preparing you to handle the blessings you once prayed for. This interruption is evidence that heaven is paying attention. Take a deep breath and release your fear of stagnation. You are not stuck. You are being positioned for divine acceleration after alignment. Let this be your moment of trust. Let the silence teach you what movement never could. The moment of divine interruption is not an ending. It is the beginning of something holy, something powerful, something destined. Comment 444 if you feel this truth in your spirit. Your pause is divine. Your path is protected. And your time is not lost. It's being perfected. The moment of divine interruption is uncomfortable because it forces introspection. You'll start noticing what drains your energy, who disrupts your peace, and what you've been holding on to that no longer serves your destiny. This pause exposes attachments disguised as blessings. The divine strips away illusions so you can see clearly. Every loss in this season is protection. Every delay is direction. What feels like rejection is actually divine preservation. And when you understand that, peace begins to return. This interruption is not just happening around you, it's happening within you. Your spirit is being recalibrated to match a higher vibration. The divine cannot elevate you while you're still vibrating at the level of your past pain. So he pauses your movement to cleanse your energy. He isolates you, not to punish you, but to refine your awareness. You may feel lonely, but you are surrounded by divine presence. This is where heaven whispers secrets that can only be heard in isolation. Chosen one. The interruption is the bridge between the old and the new. It's where the old timeline dissolves and the new one begins to form. You are standing at the intersection of endings and beginnings. That's why everything feels strange, because you're not who you were, and yet not fully who you're becoming. This space is called divine transition, and only those chosen for higher callings experience it in this way. So instead of resisting it, embrace it. The stillness you feel is God's voice guiding you toward realignment. Every time you sense the urge to rush, remember this: divine timing cannot be forced. It can only be surrendered to. What's coming after this pause will not be a repeat of the old. It will be a restoration of the new. The divine is preparing you to handle the blessings you once prayed for. This interruption is evidence that heaven is paying attention. Take a deep breath and release your fear of stagnation. You are not stuck. You are being positioned for divine acceleration after alignment. Let this be your moment of trust. Let the silence teach you what movement never could. The moment of divine interruption is not an ending. It is the beginning of something holy, something powerful, something destined. Comment 444 if you feel this truth in your spirit. Your pause is divine. Your path is protected, and your time is not lost. It's being perfected. So, chosen one, don't resist this divine quiet. Rest in it. Listen within it. Trust that this is your sacred preparation season. The purpose behind the pause is to transform you from seeker to seer, from survivor to servant of destiny. Every still moment is a divine whisper shaping your future. You're not waiting on God, God is working on you. And when this pause concludes, you won't return to life as you knew it. You'll rise as the version of yourself you were always meant to be. The inner work God is doing. Chosen one, when everything outside you grows quiet, understand that the true transformation begins within. The divine pause is not idle time. It's the sacred workshop of heaven, where God is performing inner reconstruction. You may not see progress in the world around you, but inside, something powerful is being rewired. This is the season of unseen work, where the Spirit moves deep within the chambers of your soul to heal, cleanse, and realign everything that has drifted from divine order. God starts by confronting what you've buried. Every wound, every unhealed memory, every doubt you've silenced begins to surface. You might feel waves of emotion, sadness, restlessness, fatigue, confusion. But these are not signs of weakness. They are signals that the inner work is happening. The Spirit is pulling up old roots so new fruit can grow. He's peeling away layers of identity that were built from pain instead of purpose. The divine cannot pour new oil into an unhealed vessel, so he first repairs the cracks that past seasons left behind. This is the inner cleansing, the detox of the spirit. You'll begin to feel detached from what once defined you. Old titles, old roles, even old relationships. It may look like loss, but in truth, it's liberation. The divine is clearing your internal space for higher assignments. You are being freed from the opinions of others, from performance-driven living, from the need to prove yourself. God wants the chosen one to move in purity of purpose, not from pressure or pride. So he purges every false identity until all that remains is the authentic soul He created before the world told you who to be. During this inner transformation, silence becomes your teacher. The noise of the world no longer feeds your spirit, it agitates it. You'll crave solitude because that's where the divine conversation happens. In stillness, God speaks to your core. He reveals truth that cannot be heard in motion. You start to see patterns, the reasons you repeated certain mistakes, the roots of your fears, the real motives behind your choices. This is the gift of awareness, the light of discernment that illuminates your inner landscape. The inner work is also refinement. God is not only healing your heart, He's sharpening your spirit. You are being trained to discern divine timing, to feel spiritual shifts before they manifest. This is where the chosen one learns to move by intuition, not impulse. You become sensitive to energy, knowing when something aligns and when it doesn't. Heaven is activating your spiritual senses. Your discernment grows keener. Your peace becomes your compass. Your boundaries become sacred. But this inner work is not comfortable. The refining fire burns away what cannot stay. You'll face yourself, your impatience, your pride, your need for control. The divine exposes these not to shame you, but to liberate you. God's goal is wholeness. He wants you healed enough to carry the weight of your calling without collapsing. You cannot operate with divine authority if you're still bound by earthly wounds. So He works in you quietly, removing bitterness, cleansing motives, expanding compassion. The chosen one's heart must be strong but soft, powerful enough to lead, humble enough to love. Sometimes this season feels like isolation. Friends may not understand what's happening to you. You'll try to explain, but words fail. That's because this work is spiritual, not social. It's happening between you and the divine. You're not being excluded, you're being consecrated. Isolation is the cocoon that precedes transformation. A butterfly cannot form while surrounded by noise. It must rest in sacred stillness until the change is complete. The same is true for you. God is also restoring your inner voice. For too long, you've listened to outside opinions more than divine intuition. In this pause, the Spirit recalibrates your confidence, not the loud, external confidence built on validation, but the quiet assurance that comes from knowing who walks with you. You begin to trust your own discernment again. The fog lifts, and you start to recognize your true rhythm, your divine flow. This is spiritual maturity, moving from needing confirmation to becoming confirmation. Chosen one, the inner work is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you already are. God is stripping away everything false, so your original essence, the divine image within, can shine again. That's why you may feel raw, exposed, or uncertain. But underneath the discomfort is clarity being born. You're learning to listen with your heart, to think from your spirit, to act from divine wisdom instead of reaction. This work also repairs your relationship with rest. You're learning that rest is not laziness, it's trust. Rest says, God, I release control because I know you're still working. In stillness, you find power. The same God who rested on the seventh day is teaching you that creation requires cycles of rest. Your spirit is being trained to move with divine rhythm, to flow, not to force. When this inner work is complete, your energy will feel different. You'll walk lighter, speak slower, love deeper, and see clearer. Your peace will become unshakable because it's rooted in alignment, not circumstance. The people around you will notice the change even before you speak. They'll sense the authority, the grace, the quiet power that only comes from one who has been remade in divine silence. Chosen one, trust this process. Though it feels hidden, heaven is active. Every tear is washing your soul. Every pause is purifying your purpose. Every silence is sharpening your spirit. When the inner work is done, the outer blessings will manifest effortlessly because you will finally be a match for what you prayed for. You are being transformed from the inside out. Let the divine finish what he started within you, for when you emerge, you won't just carry light, you will be light. When the world misunderstands your pause. Chosen one of the hardest parts of your divine journey is being misunderstood while you're in the pause. When God stops everything in your life, the world begins to question you. People start whispering. They look at your silence and call it failure. They see your stillness and call it laziness. They assume you've lost your drive, your passion, your purpose, but they cannot see what heaven is building in secret. They don't understand that the divine has you hidden, not halted. To them you've disappeared, but in truth you've been placed in divine incubation. This misunderstanding is necessary. The world is trained to value speed and visibility, but the chosen one operates by divine timing, not worldly applause. You were never meant to blend in with their definitions of success. While they chase validation, you chase vision. When they measure progress by what's seen, you measure purpose by what's sensed. The world doesn't understand that a pause in the natural realm often means power is being gathered in the spiritual one. They only see the silence. They can't feel the storm of transformation moving beneath it. People will talk, and sometimes their voices will sting. They'll say, "You've changed," and they'll be right. You're no longer accessible to chaos. You've outgrown the need to explain your stillness. You don't owe anyone updates on your process. When God pulls you into a pause, he often pulls you away from people too. Not because they're bad, but because they're blind to what he's doing in you. They can't handle your transformation mid-process. They'd only try to label what they can't define. So, heaven shields you from their opinions, while your spirit matures in silence. In this misunderstood season, you'll notice how certain relationships fade. Some people were attached to your movement, not your mission. They celebrated your productivity but couldn't handle your pruning. When the applause stopped, so did their loyalty. And that's exactly how God reveals who's truly for you. The pause is a purifier. It exposes motives. It shows you who can stand with you when there's nothing to gain. You'll lose company, but you'll gain clarity. The divine is teaching you that solitude is safer than shallow connections. Chosen one, this misunderstanding is part of your molding. The divine is training you to move without needing to be understood. Every prophet, every messenger, every visionary has faced this. When Moses withdrew to the mountain, people doubted him. When Christ stayed silent before his accusers, they mocked him. Divine silence is often mistaken for defeat, but the chosen ones know, the quieter heaven seems, the deeper God is working. You are walking a path few can comprehend, and that is the price of spiritual depth. Do not waste your energy trying to explain divine timing to those who live by worldly clocks. You cannot make them understand something that was never revealed to them. The pause is not for their approval. It's for your alignment. Let them think what they want. The same people who doubt your stillness will one day witness your resurrection. When God restarts your story, they'll see the purpose behind every pause. What they called failure, heaven will call foundation. During this misunderstood season, guard your peace fiercely. Don't defend your stillness. Protect it. not everyone deserves access to your process. Some will only drain the energy that's meant to heal you. Choose silence over explanation. Let your transformation speak when the time is right. Remember, when gold is being refined, it's hidden in fire, not displayed in public. You are in that refining fire right now, not burning, but becoming. The world will always misread divine development because it moves differently. You're being shaped by unseen hands. You're learning patience, humility, and wisdom, qualities that cannot be rushed. When you emerge, your power will be undeniable, your voice unshakable, and your purpose unstoppable. That's why the misunderstanding must happen. It separates you from the need to be understood, freeing you to obey the higher call without hesitation. Chosen one, don't fear being misjudged. Let them talk. Let them assume. Their perception is temporary, but your transformation is eternal. The pause they mocked will one day be the testimony that silences them. Trust that every misinterpretation is part of the plan. God is protecting your process from premature exposure. The world misunderstands your pause because it's not meant to understand it. It's meant to witness the power that comes after it. When this season ends, your silence will make sense. The stillness they questioned will become the strength you lead with. Until then, stay hidden, stay holy, stay patient. Heaven's approval outweighs every human opinion. What the world calls a pause, the divine calls preparation. And soon, they'll see exactly why God had to stop you before he could show you. Signs that your divine interruption is ending. Chosen one, there comes a moment when the stillness begins to shift, when what once felt silent starts to hum with life again. The divine does not keep you in pause forever. Every season of interruption carries an appointed end, and the signs of its closing are subtle yet sacred. You'll begin to sense that the atmosphere around you has changed. What once felt heavy starts to feel lighter. The fog that clouded your clarity begins to lift, and suddenly, ideas, energy, and divine inspiration start flowing again. This is not coincidence. It's confirmation that your divine interruption is nearing completion. One of the first signs is the return of desire. After a long period of stillness, your heart begins to beat for purpose again. You feel drawn to move, to create, to step forward, but this time it's not out of anxiety or impatience. It's out of divine readiness. The Holy Spirit whispers through renewed motivation. You feel guided rather than pushed. What once required effort now flows with grace. This is how you know you've been refined, because you move in peace, not pressure. Another sign is alignment. Things begin to click in ways you couldn't force before. Doors open without struggle. People appear at the right time, carrying divine connections and opportunities. Conversations confirm what your spirit already sensed. Even the smallest synchronicities, repeated numbers, recurring symbols, divine timings, all signal that heaven's clock is striking go. Where there was resistance, now there is rhythm. The path that once felt blocked begins to clear, and what was confusing now carries direction. You will also notice that your perspective has shifted. The same situations that used to frustrate you now seem small. You no longer react. You respond with wisdom. The pause changed you from within, and the world feels different because you are different. That maturity is a sign that the lesson has been learned and the preparation fulfilled. God does not release you until the refinement has done its work, and the peace within you proves that the inner work is complete. Then comes the stirring of new assignments. The divine begins placing fresh visions in your heart. You'll feel drawn towards something you didn't expect. A new mission, a new environment, a new chapter. This calling will feel familiar yet foreign, like you've always been meant for it but weren't ready until now. That's because your energy now matches the frequency of your destiny. The pause was the bridge, and you've crossed it. Finally, you'll sense divine acceleration. What took months to manifest before begins unfolding quickly and effortlessly. Prayers you almost forgot you prayed start getting answered. Delays turn into divine timing, and the momentum returns. But this time, it's holy momentum. You're not striving anymore. You're flowing. That's how you know your divine interruption is ending, because everything begins to align without you having to chase it. Chosen one, stay alert and grateful. When these signs appear, move with faith, not fear. Your pause was never permanent, it was preparation. The season of stillness is closing, and the winds of purpose are rising again. You've been refined, restored, and realigned. Now, it's time to rise. The lessons you were meant to learn, chosen one. Every divine interruption comes carrying sacred wisdom, truths that can only be learned through stillness, surrender, and silence. The pause wasn't meant to punish you, it was meant to teach you. You see, there are lessons that movement can never reveal, only stillness can. When God paused your path, He was preparing your perception. He wanted you to see differently, think deeper, and live wiser. The first lesson is trust. You were made to release your grip on control and learn to lean completely on divine timing. Before, you may have tried to shape outcomes by force, but the pause taught you that destiny doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to peace. You learned that when you stop chasing, what's meant for you starts finding you. You learned that delay is not denial, and silence is not absence. The second lesson is self-awareness. In the stillness, you met parts of yourself that had been buried under busyness, wounds that needed healing, gifts that needed refining, habits that needed releasing. You realized that your greatest battles were never external, they were within. This awareness is spiritual maturity, and it will anchor you as you rise again. The third lesson is detachment. The divine taught you to stop clinging to people, titles, and timelines. You learned that peace cannot depend on external validation. You discovered the power of letting go, that sometimes to gain everything, you must lose what no longer serves you. Finally, you learned the lesson of alignment. You now understand that not every open door is divine, not every opportunity is meant for your path. You've gained the discernment to know when something feels forced and when it flows. You move slower now, but with sacred precision. You've learned that obedience is stronger than ambition. Chosen one, these lessons are the jewels you carry out of the pause. They are the evidence that you've grown, that you've become more rooted, more aware, and more connected to divine will. The world may see only what was lost, but heaven celebrates what was gained. Wisdom, strength, patience, and faith that no storm can shake. You are no longer who you were when the pause began. You are who you were meant to become. When God restarts your story, chosen one, there comes a time after the long silence when heaven turns the page and begins to write again. You've waited, endured, cried, and questioned, and now you begin to sense motion returning. The divine does not restart your story until your soul is ready to walk in alignment with destiny. You've been refined in the pause, purified in the waiting, and strengthened in the silence. Now, the author of your life lifts his pen once more and whispers, "It's time." When God restarts your story, it doesn't begin where it left off. He doesn't pick up from your old chapter. He begins something entirely new. The same you who entered the pause is not the same you stepping out of it. You carry deeper wisdom, stronger discernment, and a peace that cannot be shaken. This new beginning feels different because you move differently. You no longer rush. You no longer chase. You follow divine flow. You've learned to trust the rhythm of heaven, and that trust has positioned you for restoration. One of the first things you'll notice is divine alignment returning in full force. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Things begin to connect seamlessly. Opportunities, people, timing, all moving in harmony. You don't have to force anything because the current of grace begins to carry you. This is what it means when God restarts your story. The things that once required your strength now move by His Spirit. What used to take months happens in moments. The delay that once frustrated you now reveals its purpose. Preparation. As God reopens your path, He does not return what you lost. He restores what was destined. Restoration is not about replacement. It's about elevation. You won't receive the same blessings you had before the pause. You'll receive upgraded versions, refined, purified, aligned with your divine vibration. The relationships, the assignments, the dreams, the resources all come back with greater grace. The divine gives double to those who endured the divine silence with faith. The same places where you faced rejection will become the very places that witness your resurrection. When God restarts your story, He also redefines your identity. The old labels no longer fit. You no longer operate from survival. You operate from authority. You speak differently. You move differently, and people will notice the shift. Some will say, "You've changed," but what they're really sensing is your alignment. The version of you that walked into the pause had potential. The version stepping out carries purpose. That's what the pause was for, to prepare you for the weight of what's coming next. Chosen one, this restart is sacred. It is heaven's signal that your preparation has met divine timing. You may feel fear at first, a trembling in your spirit because motion feels unfamiliar after so much stillness. But remember, God wouldn't release you if you weren't ready. Every hidden season was shaping your foundation for this moment. You are not starting over from scratch. You are starting over from strength. As your story restarts, watch for signs of divine acceleration. Ideas will come quickly, confirmations will appear frequently, and doors will open suddenly. You'll begin to sense divine momentum, where everything flows with ease because it's guided by grace, not grind. What you thought was lost time will be redeemed, because when heaven moves, it multiplies. God restores years, not moments. The time you thought you wasted becomes the wisdom that fuels your rise. And perhaps the most beautiful part, your story will now serve as a message. The pain, the pauses, the prayers, the tears, all of it becomes testimony. You'll find yourself speaking life into others, still stuck in their stillness. You'll carry light for those still walking through darkness. That's how you'll know God has truly restarted your story. Because now your journey carries purpose beyond yourself. Chosen one, breathe in this truth. Your waiting was not wasted. Heaven has turned the page, and your life is entering its divine unfolding. Move with faith, not fear. Trust what feels new. Don't try to recreate the old. You've been called to pioneer something greater. The chapter ahead is not a repeat, it's redemption. God has restarted your story, and this time, Nothing will be able to stop what he has already written for you. The responsibility after the interruption is new. 1. When God restarts your story, the blessing comes with responsibility. The divine didn't pause your life just to comfort you. He paused it to commission you. You've been refined for purpose, and now you must walk in it with wisdom, humility, and consistency. The responsibility after the interruption is to live as the version of yourself that the pause created, not to slip back into old patterns, old distractions, or old ways of thinking. You now carry a higher level of spiritual accountability. The silence taught you discernment, so you must now move carefully, intentionally, and in alignment with divine timing. Don't rush just because movement has returned. Move only when heaven says move. Every step must reflect the lessons learned in stillness, patience, awareness, faith, and peace. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding with purpose. Your voice now carries weight. Your presence carries healing. Your choices influence more than just you. They ripple through others connected to your destiny. That's why you must protect your energy fiercely. Stay grounded in prayer, rooted in gratitude, and surrounded by purity. The world will try to pull you back into noise, but you've learned the value of quiet obedience. Walk in it. Chosen one, the pause gave you power. Now use it with purpose. Lead with integrity, speak with love, and move in divine order. Don't waste the wisdom your silence birthed. The responsibility after the interruption is simple yet sacred. Live as the healed, awakened, and aligned vessel God prepared you to be. You survived the stillness. Now honor it by living your destiny with grace and divine authority. The final revelation of why God interrupted you. Chosen one, now that you've walked through silence, stillness, and surrender, the truth begins to reveal itself. You see, God never interrupted you to break you. He interrupted you to bless you. The pause was not punishment. It was protection. The divine saw what you could not see, the traps hidden behind what you called opportunity, the exhaustion that would have come from running ahead of his timing. So, he stepped in and stopped you before you lost yourself to motion without meaning. The revelation is this: every divine interruption is an act of love. God didn't remove people, paths, or plans to hurt you. He removed them to make room for what was holy. He saw the weight you were carrying and knew it would crush you if you didn't learn to rest in him. He paused your story to purify your heart, so when he restarted it, you'd carry purpose, not pain. You weren't being delayed, you were being delivered. Now you see it clearly. The relationships that ended were lessons, not losses. The silence that scared you became your sanctuary. The waiting that frustrated you became the womb of your transformation. Everything that fell apart was actually falling into divine order. God interrupted you so he could interrupt the generational cycles that once bound you. Chosen one, this is the revelation. You were never being punished, you were being positioned. Heaven hit pause to prepare you for a life that your old self couldn't handle. What was once confusion is now clarity. What once hurt now makes sense. The interruption was God's way of realigning your destiny, so that when you finally moved again, it would be in divine rhythm, carrying divine power toward divine purpose. Conclusion and final message. Chosen one. As this message draws to a close, take a moment to breathe and reflect. You have walked through silence, surrender, revelation, and restoration. You have seen what it means when heaven presses pause on your life, and you now understand that every interruption carried divine intention. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. The divine used stillness to shape your strength, used isolation to build your intimacy, and used silence to awaken your spirit. You have become the living proof that divine delay is not denial, that the path of the chosen is not about speed, but about spiritual alignment. Now, you stand at the threshold of a new beginning. Everything you've endured has prepared you for this moment. A moment of clarity, power, and purpose. The noise that once confused you no longer has authority, because you now move in spiritual rhythm. The lessons of the pause live within you. You've learned to wait without worry, to trust without proof, and to love without fear. You've grown into a vessel strong enough to hold divine purpose without breaking under the weight of it. Chosen one. Your journey through interruption was never about loss. It was about learning who you truly are when everything else is stripped away. God wanted to show you that your identity is not tied to motion, titles, or outcomes. It's anchored in divine essence. You are not the same person who entered the pause. You are reborn, recalibrated, and restored. You now carry the spiritual wisdom of stillness, the discernment born of silence, and the courage that only comes from surrender. You have been awakened to the truth that divine interruption is not a detour, it's destiny disguised. As you move forward, hold these truths close. Never despise the pauses of life, for they are the womb of your greatest transformations. Never rush divine timing, for every delay hides divine design. And never doubt the process, for every silence speaks if you're willing to listen. You were chosen to experience what others call confusion, so you could guide them toward clarity. Your voice will carry light into the lives of others who are still in their waiting. You are not just surviving this journey. You are now the evidence of divine orchestration. This is your confirmation, chosen one. Your life is entering divine alignment. The stillness has ended, the flow has returned, and heaven has already gone before you. Move forward with grace and intention. Every step you take from here is sacred. You're no longer walking alone. You're walking with divine guidance, backed by purpose, protected by favor, and powered by faith. The same God who interrupted your life is the same one who is now accelerating it. So rise. Rise with quiet confidence. Rise with the wisdom that the world cannot take from you. Rise as the healed, awakened, and empowered soul that you are. The pause was never the end of your story. It was the holy beginning of a new one. If your spirit knows this message was meant for you, comment 333 as your divine confirmation. Let heaven know you receive this word, not just with your mind, but with your heart. And before you go, share this message with someone who may still be in their own divine silence. Be the light that helps them understand that their waiting is not wasted. Chosen one, remember this truth. Your pause was preparation. Your pain was purification, and your restoration is proof that God never forgets his own. The rise of the chosen begins not in noise, but in stillness. And you, right now, are the living embodiment of that divine truth. Your interruption has become your initiation, and your new chapter begins today.